Hi, my name's John Manuel, and just going to tell you a little bit about my work, what I do here. Came out to live in Rhodes about 8 years ago now, in 2005. This video being shot in October of 2013. And since here I've published 4 books of Grisham memoirs, the Ramblings from Rhodes series, and a novel, The View from Cleobulos. There's another novel in the pipeline, probably going to be called A Brief Moment of Sunshine, and it will have a slight crossover with The View from Cleobulos, in that there will be some characters that some details were not fully explored in Cleobulos. They'll be fleshed out a bit in Brief Moment of Sunshine. I don't profess to be a literary genius. I've always wanted to write. English was a good subject, one of my best subjects at school. I never pursued a career that related to writing. I was a graphic designer for most of my work in life, and I still do dabble a little bit, but I always enjoyed writing. I like conversation, I like language, but have discovered since writing the memoirs, which are meant to be light-hearted and hopefully informative for those who primarily like or love things Greek, because my wife is half Greek. I just wanted to do something that I've always wanted to do, and moving out here I had more time to do it. Pleased to say that the overall response, the general response to the books, including the novel, has been very positive. But I probably wasn't ready for what a lot of authors who've been doing it a lot longer than I have experienced, and that's, I suppose, the negative criticism. You have to accept you're not going to please everybody, obviously. And I'm just getting used to the fact now, actually, after several years of having reviews posted on Amazon of the books. You know, how can I put it? You need to be thick-skinned, because you put hours, weeks, months, even years into a book, and you kind of put a whole chunk of your soul into it. And the basic reason you do it, apart from the fact you do it because you want to get pleasure out of writing it, you really think you're going to give something to people who read it that they'll enjoy, and that they will be glad that they spent a couple of quid on it, or whatever, and they'll just find it enjoyable. And personally, I write reviews on Amazon of other authors' work, and if I don't like the work, I try to be kind whilst offering perhaps a constructive criticism, and you kind of have to get used to the fact that not everyone's going to be kind. Yeah, maybe it's immature. I'll give you an example. The View from Cleobulos, the novel, I mean, still has a modest number of reviews on Amazon. At this moment, about 13, 12 of which are very, very positive, I'm grateful to say, one of which is quite the reverse, and that's what I find a bit strange, because most of the readers have said that the twists in the book and the way the plot developed kept them guessing to the end, which was the idea, obviously. And then you get a review from somebody that says, oh, it's predictable. And I kind of think, how can 12 people say something kept them gripped, wanting to find out what happened, and another person decides they knew exactly what was going to happen? And I think maybe sometimes, and this is not intended to be a criticism of the critic, but maybe, you know, if you guess something, if you think, well, I think this is going to happen, and then it does, you think, well, there you are, it was predictable. But maybe you were just as likely to have been wrong, in which case you'd be saying, wow, it surprised me. I've read books that I've thought I knew what was going to happen, and it has happened as I've worked out. Other times not. What I prefer to, I suppose, the way I prefer to judge a book I read is whether I've been engaged by it, enjoyed it, found something instructive in it. Entertaining, I suppose, is the most important thing. I've read books by, you know, John Grisham, Douglas Kennedy, Charles Dickens, which, and this hits another little area really, of criticism, where they might spend pages expounding their philosophy through the words of one of the characters in the book. I've been criticised only by one or two in some of my books for doing something similar. Kind of, we don't need all these pages of philosophizing or explaining things and so on. And yet that's how a book is fleshed out. I mean, I do read, probably on average, a couple of books, 3 or 4 books a month, and have done most of my adult life. So I'm a fairly experienced reader, and most authors, Thomas Hardy is one of my favourite authors. And I know you're talking about 100 and odd more years ago. But a lot of Thomas Hardy books is description. Description of places, scenes, history, before you get down to the actual action. If you just condense the action of any book and report the action, well, it's not a book, is it? It's a report on a few things that happened. So that's how I respond, I suppose, to those who say, who do you think you are, telling me all these things? I often read books where people will slam things they don't believe in through the words of a character. So I suppose I've done something similar in Cleophilus, and once or twice in the Ramblings from Rhodes books, but hopefully with a degree of respect and a degree of consideration to the feelings of the reader. I appeal, hopefully, always try to appeal to logic. Somebody even criticised Cleophilus, for example, for being too much about what the author knows about Lindos, and I thought, well, I've never read a book yet by anybody who writes about what they don't know. If you write about what you don't know, you're out of your depth, and you're going to come a cropper. You've got to do an awful lot of research anyway, even to write about what you know. So I guess, it's going to be that way, and when you write about, if you're writing fact rather than fiction, it's much easier too, because you're just basically remembering things. Anyway, I suppose when it comes down to it, the 4 Ramblings from Rhodes books, I set out to write them originally, having read Peter Mail's Provence books, and kind of aspired to writing something similar, and I, as I say, I have no pretensions of being anything special, but I am grateful that most of those who've responded to the books, either directly to me through email or by putting their criticisms on Amazon, have been positive. And so I suppose you have to accept the fact you can't please everybody. And if you please the greater percentage of those who read your work, then really you've done okay. I mean, I was looking at the John Grisham website recently, trying to look for a particular book to recommend to somebody because it concerned a subject that touched their lives. Health insurance, as it happened. And I came across a review of one of his books which was really, really scathing. And you really thought, well, this guy isn't very good. And yet you're talking about one of the top-selling authors on the planet. So I suppose I'm developing a thicker skin. I hope it will get thicker still. And I should continue to write, primarily because I think most writers write because they need to write. If you get an audience that appreciates what you write, so much the better. So on that basis, hopefully sometime in the new year, I don't think it will be before the end of 2013, a brief moment of sunshine will come on the market, and I hope that those of you who read it, who perhaps are disappointed in it, will be kind in your criticism. Just remember that each author basically rips their insides out and puts them on the paper. And just perhaps craves a little bit of, what's the word? I suppose kindness. A little bit of kindness, even if what you produce is not to everybody's taste. Anyway, thank you for allowing me a few minutes of your time. And if you come to Greece, which I hope you will, you might find the blog, my blog Ramblings from Rhodes, very informative, especially, of course, if you come to Rhodes itself. Bye for now.